Hey everybody, Citation here, coming to you in voiceover format. I am prefacing this home cockpit walkthrough with the fact that I am going to do this via a voiceover from the video I took, because after I had started doing the video, I realized that I had something on the 3D printer and I could not cancel it or stop it. And so that was a lot of noise in the background, and I just decided, you know what, I'll just do a walk around, video it, and then come back later and just kind of talk about a few of the things that I've got with this home cockpit. So I call this the Citation Home Cockpit. It is based off of the Cessna Citation Longitude and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, loosely based off of that. It's not an exact replica. I did build it basically for, I guess you would call it, business jet purposes. So it can really be modified to fly about anything in the game, but it really works well for, planes like the Citation and other ones like that. So as I go through here, you may see the video stop, loop back. I may start talking about something a little more in depth, and didn't give it enough time when I was just walking around taking the video. So I may just have to make a few modifications to the video, so it may not flow perfectly well, but it'll make a lot more sense as I'm talking about it. So I'm just kind of showing the exterior here. It's not pretty on the outside, but it's not meant to be. Everything important is on the inside, and that's all I cared about. And so the outside was just the raw material. You can see what I used to build it: a lot of 2x4s, 2x3s, 1x2s, a lot of paneling, a lot of MDF. Kind of an insane amount of cords and hoses going through here. The cord control is not great, so for all of you out there that care about that, my apologies. It's a mess right now. I don't know, I may clean it up, but again, it's on the outside. I never see it while I'm flying, so I don't really care too much. The computer sits on the right side. It's where everything runs to. This all does run off of one PC. And I'll have those specs down in the description. I'll have everything down in the description. I tried to link as much as I could of what I used to build this, and so I will try to get all of that put down in the description. If it's on Amazon, I'll link it there to Amazon. There will be affiliate links. But yeah, you can kind of see just kind of how I have wiring and everything like that. A lot of the stuff on top has to do with overhead panel and some exhaust fans that are up there, some lights that are up there. You'll see all of that once we get inside. But yeah, just kind of a walkthrough around the outside here. This blower actually does work. It does blow air inside the cockpit to 4 different vents that I have on the dash. You'll see those inside. It's a blower I bought off Amazon, and then I 3D printed a manifold there to kind of connect it off into 4 different hoses to blow inside. I have an Arduino under there that runs a couple of things inside, and so yeah, without further ado, let's get inside here. So I have these curtains pulled down. My wife picked them up at Target for me. I have them; they're backwards for a reason. I wanted the gray. They're gray curtains. I wanted the gray to be on the inside. I plan to do a lot of videos in the future of just flights using this home cockpit, and so I wanted that to be in the background. If I do have a camera shot that picks that up, I wanted nice gray curtains, very similar to what the real Citation has in there. But yeah, behind the curtain you see the cockpit. It is a full 2-person cockpit. I have 3 main screens that give a main windshield and 2 side window type of a view there. And yeah, let's start with the seats. The seats are on rails. This took a little while to figure out the best way to do this. I decided on these linear rails. Again, they're linked below. They work pretty well. It was a little bit of a chore trying to figure out how exactly I was going to attach these homemade seats that I made to them. I did figure it out in the end. Just getting the little sliders that came with the rails attached to the bottom of of each seat worked out pretty well. And then the next thing after that was figuring out how do I keep them in place once they're in the spot they need to be. Found a couple of these toggle clamps. Actually, I think I found these at Harbor Freight, but I have a link for them on Amazon. But yeah, once we get into place, you just take that, clamp it down. It just puts some pressure down and down onto the bottom carpet there, and keeps your chair in place so that you don't slide back and forth once you're locked in. And they're real easy. You can just use your feet to do them too. You can reach down there and push it down, or you can just use your foot, use your heel, and just kind of kick it down into place. But Yeah, starting over here on the pilot side, you can see a very inoperable but very necessary breaker panel there. That is a handmade breaker panel with 40 different breaker buttons in it. None of them, like I said, are wired up. It doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. You can push the button, nothing happens. But I wanted to have those in there just for realism's sake. And so also have a little container there to keep iPad and Xbox controller for moving camera around if I need to. There's an armrest. There's a cup holder. The little red button you see there is a push-to-talk button. I'll get to more on that here a little bit later. There's a tiller wheel there that actually works and steers it while you're on the ground taxiing. Spot there on the dash for the Apple Pencil. I use that to take notes on the iPad when I'm talking with ATC. And then, yeah, here's just an overall view of the dash. Runs off of mainly Stream Decks. 2 regular 15-button Stream Decks, and then a Stream Deck Plus with some encoders, encoder knobs. And then you will see there's a push-to-talk button on the Copilot side. Their cup holder as well. They don't have a steering tiller over on their side. Their armrest. There is on both sides a little outlet with a couple of different USB connections as well as regular plugs on there as well. And then I also wired in the jack for the headset into each one of those. I drilled out a little hole and mounted them in there so that it just wasn't randomly sticking out of the side panel somewhere. They also have a breaker panel on their side as well as their headset. And then, yeah, here's just kind of a look at the sides and the top. That main overhead panel there you can see has 2 5-inch LCD screens. That contains vPilot for when you're flying on the VATSIM network. I keep that up there so that I can see, if a controller pings me on it, you do need to have access to vPilot. Also, if someone is going, if someone pings you, you can have it on there, and then also you can see all the frequencies and everything for the different locations you're flying in and out of. So it's good to have that up there. So I wanted to have that for both Pilot and Copilot. And then in the center is a Amazon Fire tablet. I think it's like a 10-inch one. This, I was just going to use an iPad for this. However, it can be removed, and you'll see that a little bit later in the video. I do take it down off of there, and how I have it mounted up, I'll go into that a little bit more. The reason I went with an Amazon Fire tablet was because right now, to my knowledge, it's the only tablet on the market that can be wirelessly charged. And while this can be removed, for the most part, it won't be, because I do have an iPad that I use when flying to pull up Navigraph and other things on. I mainly wanted this one to always have Navigraph up on there to where I could reach up there, change it, switch out maps, pull up different charts if I wanted to, but never really need to take it down. It's nice that if I do need to take it down, I can, but mainly it just stays up there. But I wanted it to then be able to be plugged into a charger somehow, and I know with an iPad I could have gotten a little side charger in there and probably hit it pretty well. But again, if I ever needed to pull it down, it would have had to have been unplugged and brought down and all of that. And so I just simply looked online, tried to see if there's any tablets that do wireless charging. That one did. I thought, let's go for it, and found it on sale, and then created a mount that allowed it to stay up there magnetically while also being on the wireless charger at the same time, so it's always going to be under full power. So this overhead panel here, just a 4-button switch panel I found on Amazon. I probably could have built one of these, but I found it on there. I think it was $35 maybe, and I thought I'm going to go ahead and go for this because I like the look of it with the big red toggle buttons, and I needed something to basically control the LED light strip that goes around, which I put my C, D, E, and F here are just mainly from myself, so any real pilots or aviators out there may laugh at me when they hear how I determine what these stand for, but the C, I just consider that cockpit lighting. That is the LED light strip. I'll usually leave that one on, maybe, if I'm flying, maybe here and there. If it's a night flight, I may go ahead and shut it off, but I consider that to be quote-unquote cockpit lights. The D is what I consider dome lights, which is the 2 LED lights I just turned on there, and they really light up the entire cockpit, so those are handy if you just need a whole bunch of light in the cockpit and need to flip those on for a minute. The E is what I consider exhaust, and that is going to be this little AC infinity fan you see up here at the top, and it's a powerful little fan, again linked below. it basically is just sucking out any of the hot air that's being generated from these monitors and anything else, pulling it right out of the top and getting it out of the cockpit. And then the F is what I consider fans, basically, and that is the ones that are in the dash, the four little, I don't know what you would call those, button style vents. But they're fully adjustable. You can aim them any which way you want to, but that is what that blower on the outside and those 4 hoses that come off of it go into each one of those. Again, I don't have the sound on the video. Maybe I'll cut it in here and see, just so you can hear it. It does work. I kind of stuck my hand up there to be like, look, it's actually blowing air, which you really can't tell if it is or not. I probably should have held like a little streamer or something up there. But yeah, no, it is blowing air, and it blows a lot of air. I have it running on low. It does have adjustable speed. I started on high. It does not need high at all. Low keeps it plenty cool. And so, yeah, that's what that overhead panel does. Down here on the main dash, like I said, everything sort of runs off of those 3 stream decks. Down here, I jump real quick to look at the floor with the rudder pedals. Got pedals on both sides. I already had one set of these Thrustmaster rudder pedals, so I just went in and grabbed another one. Then I saw it on sale at, I think, B&H. But got some 3D print files for some more realistic rudder pedals than what came on there. So I went ahead and just grabbed those, printed off a set for each one, and I really enjoy them. I like them better than the ones that come on those rudder pedals, and so I don't mind them. They work really well, and they kind of look the part now, so I'm pretty happy with them. But 2 honeycomb yokes to control this thing. Both work, one pilot, one co-pilot. I did have to extend these mainly just to make them work for the dashboard and the way I had everything set up. Obviously, the way that I have them mounted, I wanted... Really, the reason I went with the honeycombs is because I love the way the yoke looks and the yoke handle part of it. It really, to me, looks pretty authentic in terms of citation type yokes and handles, and I really wanted to go with those, but the rest of the honeycomb I really couldn't care less about. The red LED light, you can actually see it shining back in there. I know there's a button on the back to shut it off, but I believe every time you power it on and off, that will always come back on, and so I had kept it off, but at this point it really didn't matter to me if a little bit shines through that little grommet hole there or not. But yeah, no, none of the switches or anything like that I'm using on it. I was really just mainly interested in the handle. And so by the time I mounted it back behind the dash and the way that it's mounted in there, the yoke handle wasn't long enough. By the time you pushed in all the way and then tried to turn the yoke, you would have been hitting one of the screens on the main dash there. And so I just went with a little bit of an extender here. This is all linked down below. I think it's a 12 millimeter steel rod and then a 12 millimeter coupling there. And really, I just took the honeycomb apart. Full disclaimer, once you do that, you are voiding your warranty. So if you do decide to do the same thing here, just know that if you start taking all of this apart, you're pretty much giving up any chance of honeycomb making it right if something happens to your yoke. But I mainly just took it apart, took the entire handle apart, and then unscrewed the handle from the shaft there, and then I took the 12 millimeter rod, cut it down to the length I needed to, and had to tap out a couple holes in it so that I could screw the yoke handle back into it, and then put everything back together and tighten down the coupling, and ended up with my 2 yokes here. And I was worried that maybe the little coiled up Ethernet cable there wasn't going to work, wasn't going to stretch all the way across. It did. It works fine. I don't think it's putting any pressure on it whatsoever, so that worked out well. For the GTC here, this was a little bit tricky because the dimensions that I went with on the cockpit, I tried to keep the 2 seats within the width of my main monitor, which was a 49-inch Samsung curved monitor. I didn't want the seats extending really outside of that because it would have started looking a little weird and distorted, I think, at that point. And so once I made the seats about as narrow as I possibly could, that left me with a certain dimension for the center pedestal. And I knew all along that this GTC was going to be put on the center pedestal, just like in the real thing. And it basically left me with 7 inches of width that I could deal with at this point. And so I started out with, about, I think it was a 10-inch touchscreen, and really wanted to use that. By the time you separate out 2 of the GTC controllers onto that panel, they're pretty good size. Everything's easy to see and touch and all that kind of stuff. But the 10-inch was just going to be too wide for my use here. I was able to get a 7-inch one that fit perfect once I 3D printed this bezel to put around it. And so with that bezel, it makes it look like this is 2 separate Garmin touch controllers, but in fact it is just one touch screen, and then I have I have one of the main touch controller from the game, and then one of the pilot side touch controller. And I know there's really 4 in the real aircraft. There's 2 main ones and then 1 on each pilot side. They're basically, I think after the newest working title update, the 2 main ones can work independently of each other, or the 2 pilot ones can. In the end, for my uses, all I needed was 1 pilot side and 1 main one. And so that's what we have here. Is on the left side you have basically the pilot side GTC, and on the right side is one of the main ones. And so everything's controlled from there. But yeah, I just took that 7-inch touchscreen, 3D printed a bezel for it, designed and 3D printed one here to make it look like it's 2 different screens. And then yeah, you can see they're fully functional. You know, they control everything like they're supposed to, and this is all using the pop-out panel manager software, which is amazing software to make all of this pop-out stuff work for home cockpits, which is just great. The developers out there that make this stuff are just insanely talented, and all the stuff is obviously free. I mean, which you just can't beat that. So the rest of it here, like I said, everything's run off Stream Deck. So again, these are 2 just 15-button Stream Decks. They're flipped up vertically, and basically there's one on the pilot side and co-pilot side. They just match each other, and these are where I control pretty much all the buttons and switches and everything you would see in the regular Longitude in the game. You can access everything you need to fly the airplane from these Stream Decks and all the other controls in the cockpit here. There's no need to use a mouse or keyboard or anything once you start the flight to do anything in this aircraft. The Stream Deck Plus, I may go over all this stuff in another video because it can get sort of long-winded with how it's set up and how I'm using it and all that kind of stuff. But the Stream Deck Plus, basically, I knew when I saw that come out on the market, I thought that's my autopilot panel. It's got the knobs that I need. It's got, you know, nice big buttons there. It's got that touch screen where you can add multiple pages of stuff. You have 4 encoder knobs, but technically you have an infinite number, or however many pages they allow you to have, of, you know, because once you swipe to a new page using that touch bar, those 4 encoder knobs can now do 4 completely different things than what they did on the first page. And so I knew that was just going to be the solution for handling, you know, all the autopilot, navigation buttons, flight director, you know, all the speed knobs, altitude, heading knobs, everything like that. I was able to make that work, and using the Axis and O's software, again, I could get into all this in another video, which I may do. That's what I'm using to make all of that work and make it control everything in the aircraft. And so that's how those Stream Decks are doing everything. Again, with those, I just printed some bezels up to make them look like they're fit in there, you know, like they're meant to be there, and I think it all looks pretty good. And so for throttles, again, I have a Honeycomb Bravo throttle quadrant that I did use prior to this when I would just fly normally in Flight Simulator at my desk. But again, that 7-inch limitation that I had to meet for the center pedestal, that just wasn't going to work. I tried different ways to mount it in there. I thought about tearing off the trim wheel on it to save me a few inches. There was just no way I could make it work with sucks because I love that thing. I love the way it feels. I ended up going with these Thrustmaster, I think Thrustmaster TCA. It's the Airbus edition ones, along with the 2 accessory ones for flaps and speed control. Of course, I took them apart, ripped out all the stuff that I didn't need. I knew that I would just need the throttle levers, and I knew on the other 2 I would just need the flaps handle and the speed brake handle. So all of the other stuff, you know, I pulled the switches and knobs off of them so they would fit underneath of it here, because all those knobs and things sat up pretty high. But all that's underneath, you can't see it. I don't have any of that mapped or anything. None of it works. The only thing that works are the levers. The two buttons on the sides of the throttle levers for auto throttle and go around, those work as well. And then obviously the speed brake and the flap handles work. And but yeah, I just took them apart, painted them, you know, got rid of the Airbus blue that they were, and just tried to make them look like they fit in this aircraft. For right now, they work great. In the future, I mean, when I started this project, I've you know, all the research and everything that I did, I saw that people were making you know, motorized ones that would move when you had it on auto throttle and all that kind of stuff, mainly for like 737s and stuff like that, those kind of airliner home cockpits. But I thought, you know, I could do something like that for the Citation, make it look like the throttle levers and everything from the Longitude. But if I would have tried to have done that, this project never would have gotten finished. So these will work for now. They're working great. I love them, and so I don't love them, but they work great and they do the job, and so I'm happy with it. And they'll stay where they are for right now for a while. So, but yeah, that's what controls all of that. I've got a little nameplate there for the Citation. It's always been November 316 Bravo Papa, and it always will be. So made a little plate there, put it in the middle, so that way if I got co-pilot flying with me and they're communicating with ATC and they need a little reminder, well, there it is. So, but yeah, that is mainly the cockpit. I'm just watching the video here, making sure I don't forget anything. Let's see what I'm doing here. I've got Vegas pulled up here where we're sitting, and yeah, there are the V-Pilot screens, like I said. Navigraph up on that main screen on the tablet, and yeah, I think here in a second we're gonna just go for a little ride around. Oh, actually, no, I'm going to pull down the tablet and show you how that works. So you can see you just pop it out of there, and then right here I have basically just, again, designed and 3D printed a holder, essentially, and right there in the middle is the wireless charger that came with the tablet, and then on the two sides there you can see are just two big heavy-duty magnets that I put in there, and they're just recessed into that mount. And then on the back of the tablet, I don't think I showed it. Yeah, I didn't. Oh, you can see there when I put it back in how it showed 100%. So that's the wireless charger engaging on it. But on the back of the tablet, there's just two little metal rings that are stuck onto the back of it. That way it can grab onto those magnets. But yeah, it's never going to fall out of there. It holds it in tight, and so I was pretty happy with how that turned out. But yeah, so just kind of a little panoramic view here looking around. We got Las Vegas loaded up, and I think I go for a little taxi here just to kind of show it in use. I don't take off and fly here. Again, every flight I do from now on, I'm going to start doing those a lot more on the channel, will be from this cockpit, so you'll see it in action plenty of times. But I think here I just started taxiing just so you could see it moving and stuff. But we'll get to that here in a second, I think. But yeah, with all the research I did with this and all the other home cockpit builders out there, the one thing I always kept seeing was that when you think you're done, you're never done. So there are still a few things I want to do on this, one of them being basically a complete overhaul or redesign of the glare shield. I'm happy with the top of it and the overall shape of the front of it there where it sits on the dash, but I hate that I didn't bring it down along the sides. And I couldn't figure out the best way to do that, and I just thought, you know what, it'll be fine with a slight little bit of rounding on top. But I do want it to come down the sides. It just doesn't look right in my opinion. And so I'll probably be doing that sooner than later. So you may not see this dash the next time you see a video on this, but we will see. But yeah, here we go. I just started taxiing forward here, and yeah, you can just kind of see how it looks from the inside of the cockpit. Pretty realistic that you're sitting in the cockpit of the jet and it's just rolling down the runway. I know sometimes when people do these certain camera angles from these home cockpits, the sides and stuff can look way off or way distorted or not look right. I promise when you're sitting in it, if I'm looking at it right now, these don't look bad at all, really. Everything seems to line up pretty well. But no, when you're sitting in it and you look left and right, everything is pretty well lined up when you take off. Horizons change and move up and down like they're supposed to. Here I'm giving you a little look of the steering tiller, showing you that it actually does work. This is run off of using MobiFlight, and then I have a potentiometer underneath that big wheel that wheel is basically sitting on top of, that it's turning as I kind of go left and right down the taxiway here. I think I was trying to go back and forth showing you me moving the wheel, and then you could see the actual jet moving back and forth, but I don't know how well I did there. There, I think I brought it to a stop. Yeah, just kind of give you a look. There you can kind of see a little bit of the, well, not too bad. I think it's the 49-inch monitor in the front that really, if there's any mess up in the way that things kind of flow from the front view down to the sides, it's the fact that that ultra wide is trying to spread such a wide field of view across there that some of what you start to see on the edges of it will start to get stretched out a tiny little bit before they then make their way onto the two side panels. And so I am using the render window experimental option, whatever that is, in Microsoft Flight Simulator to add those two side windows. I'm not just stretching every one window across all three things here, so it does take a hit on frames. In terms of performance and all that, again, when I do a flight, or maybe I'll do another video just kind of talking about more of the tech specific stuff of this, like with the Stream Decks and how all that's set up, and then I can even talk about the steering tiller and how I built that and everything. But it gets about, I would say, 35 to 40 frames per second pretty smoothly. Every now and then I'll get a stutter here and there, but running on I think it's a 12900K CPU and then a 3090 GPU, for it to get that after I break out all the windows and break out all the panels and everything, and all of this just running off one computer, I'm pretty happy with that. So, but yeah, I keep a keyboard down there just for to start everything up, and then if you're in vPilot or if you're flying on VATSIM and there is something that pops up on vPilot that you either need to go up there and click something on one of those screens, at least you got the keyboard there to use if we need to. So yeah, just going around here looking at that blower one more time. Basically I just have that hose drop down there so that the coldest air is going to be on the bottom anyway, so just picks up air from the floor there and kind of point it out toward the door to this guest room, so that if there's any cool air, it's probably coming from that area, and so that's where it's going to pull it in from. But yeah, this is basically the Citation home cockpit. And so if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. Depending on how many questions there are and if there's a lot of the same ones and things like that, I may answer them in the comments, or I may just give it a few days, see which ones are more prevalent, there's a lot of stuff people are interested in knowing, and then I may just do a follow-up video where I answer a lot of those questions in the video, so I'm not having to do it on every single comment and that sort of thing. So yeah, as we just take a few more looks at it around here, I don't think I missed anything, but if I did, again, leave me a shout in the comments, and otherwise I think that is going to be it for this video. I think I covered everything I wanted to, and yeah, all right, well, thanks for watching. Look forward to some flight videos coming here, hopefully in the near future, using the new home cockpit here. So thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you guys later.